Welcome back to Thompson's Coins, where today we're taking a look at some incredibly valuable and very popular coloured $2 coins. This may come as a shock to some of you, but coloured $2 coin collecting has not always been incredibly popular. When they first came out, particularly the red poppy, everyone identifies that as sort of the king of the coloured $2 coin collection. But when they were first released, they were well received on the whole, but there was still a large surplus that was left over. And ultimately, a large number of them ended up being distributed directly through banks because they were not being purchased. So I think it's important to also bear in mind, and this is one of the things that I love about coin collecting. I always go on about the story of the centenary florin, the Melbourne centenary florin. The original production run was 75,000, but only about 54,000 remained after they melted down a number of them. So I love these stories where you have areas of collecting that start out with, a little bit of excitement, but then as time progresses, it ends up, that little whisper ends up turning into a roar, and you have a huge amount of collector demand for something. And I think these rolls that we're about to take a look at today are also a great example of something that started out, a little bit of a niche within a niche, and then has gone on to become a really popular area of collecting. We'll start with probably the main event. This is the 2013 Coronation coloured $2 coin. So as I mentioned earlier, the red poppy, as many of you will know, was the first coloured $2 coin in Australian coin collecting history. That was issued in 2012. And then to follow on and continue the excitement, we had the 2013 Diamond Jubilee of the Queen's coronation. So in 1953, at the young age of 25, Queen Elizabeth II took the throne, and this particular coin in 2013 was produced to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Queen's coronation. What we have here today is one of the Chubb rolls. So Chubb, for anyone that's unfamiliar, they were the security company tasked with the distribution of these rolls of coins. They're notable for the green wrapper that they appear in. The next roll we'll take a look at is in one of the Royal Australian Mint wraps. So you can clearly identify a Chubb roll as opposed to the Royal Australian Mint roll. In 2013, this was the only way to get these particular coins in a complete roll. Many of them have been broken up because when you have a coin like this that had a really high collectability to it, the value of the individual coins often exceeded the value of having them in an intact roll. And as a result, it's an interesting sort of balance to strike, because with so many of these rolls being effectively destroyed over the years and the individual coins being sold just by themselves, the rolls are quite uncommon to see. And I also think with the increase in popularity of having your coins graded, rolls are quite desirable in the sense that you can be assured that the coins that you receive in the roll are all going to be uncirculated. And then if you're inclined to break open a roll and have your coins graded, this is a really popular way for people to get coins that are going to be suitable for receiving high grades. When I say high grades, again, anyone that's unfamiliar, I'm referring to PCGS. This is the coin company over in the United States that authenticate and attribute a numerical grade to your coins. And the objective is to get the highest grades possible, and in the hopes of achieving higher grades, getting coins directly from rolls or directly from mint bags is quite popular, rather than just relying on getting something in a really high grade from the till at the supermarket. Now taking a look at the design of the coin, in the legend, which is the text that runs around the outer border of the coin, we have the royal cipher, which is E2R, which stands for Elizabeth II Regina, which is Latin for Queen. Then we have coronation, 60 years, as well as the denomination down the bottom there of $2. In the center, we have the royal crown, as well as the iconic purple around the rim as well. Flipping over to the obverse, the head side, we have that Ian Rank Broadley portrait of Queen Elizabeth, as well as the country, Australia, and then the year 2013. I also have here, just to give a bit of a spotlight on the actual design of the coin, you can see it a little clearer on the C Mint Mark card. The C Mint Mark variety of these coins is the edition of the coin that was produced with the small letter C to indicate that it was produced at the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra. These were produced specifically for collectors and were presented in what's referred to as a tri-fold card. Funnily enough, because it folds out into 3 panels. Next up, we have the 2015 Remembrance Day coin. This one's quite poignant, and I quite like the design features on it because I like anything that has a bit more of a story to tell. And obviously you have the coronation. That's an incredibly popular and very significant coin in terms of Australian coin collecting. They're very popular with a mintage of only 1 million. It's quite rare as well. But then the 2015 Remembrance Day coin, this was the Flanders Fields reference, and the colour, the light orange colour, was symbolic of the sunset. The text that appears in the fields of the coin is also portions of the In Flanders Fields poem by John McCrae, which he wrote in 1915. If you get the opportunity, I would highly encourage you to go have a read of the poem. It's quite intense and I think captures a really significant part of World War I history. Once again, just so you can have a look, I have the C mint mark variety here. I also have a number of rolls, which is quite exciting. It's always nice to have multiples of something because often I do these videos, I highlight something, I get quite excited, it sells shortly thereafter, and then people invariably either come into the store or they call up and they're interested in that certain thing, whatever it is that I'm highlighting, and I have to explain that unfortunately it's no longer available. But having said that, I do have a wish list, so if anyone does have things that they're specifically looking for that they're having difficulty finding, you can drop me an email at info@thompsonscoins.com and I'll endeavour to keep my eyes and ears peeled for you. But these rolls here are really cool. It's interesting because this is something that ultimately led to what's referred to as the premium rolls from the Royal Australian Mint. These are the rolls that have the little hologram sticker on them, and they're guaranteed to be heads, tails in the configuration. When I say heads, tails, that's referring to when you look at either end of the roll, you'll see one end has the heads and the other side has the tails. These rolls here are all tails, tails. And when I was working in a coin shop, I always thought that was really cool, particularly for the coloured coins, because it has the Royal Australian Mint wrap and you see the colour on both ends of the roll. You know that everything in the roll is going to be that coin, but for some people the preference was always heads, tails. It was, I'll be honest, it was a bit of a sore point when you would receive a roll that was heads, heads, when you'd ordered the coloured coins from the Royal Australian Mint, because that meant that you certainly did have to open up the roll to confirm that what you did have was indeed the coloured coins that you were hoping for. And again, with a mintage of just over 1.5 million, this was another one of the really popular areas of coloured $2 coin collecting, and to have them in the rolls, and like I say, my personal favourite configuration of tails, tails, is incredibly cool. So if you've ever wanted to add one of those to your collection, you do have an opportunity now, as well as the coronation. That's one rung below the red poppy roll in terms of desirability, and they're incredibly hard to get your hands on. So whilst I appreciate that for a lot of people it's well beyond the scope of your ordinary everyday collector, perhaps the 2015 Remembrance Day roll is a little more attainable, but we certainly are getting up to the top end of coloured $2 coin collecting. It gets pretty expensive pretty quickly, particularly if you're endeavouring to collect one of each of the coloured $2 coins in roll form. But like I say, the coronation would be one rung below the red poppy in terms of desirability and difficulty to acquire. And again, these types of things, so many of the rolls have been broken down. I can't stress that enough because I've seen it happen so many times. They get broken down, and then as a result, you end up with a significantly smaller population of the coin in roll form. So I always do my best, and I love the idea of preserving things like these. It's not the same, but it's sort of like the Foy's bag. Again, I keep going on about the Melbourne Centenary florin, but with the accompanying bag, that's something that was not necessarily intended to be a collectible, but as a result ended up being highly desirable because so many of them were discarded. Much the same with these rolls. So I'll tell you the story actually of how I came into possession of these rolls. A lady came in and sold a large shoebox of them that she had, both the coronation rolls and the 2015 remembrance rolls. And I asked her what the story was and why she had so many of them. And I was delighted to learn that she worked in a bank and she had the foresight to put some of these aside. She said that she would receive the deliveries whenever large volumes of coins were ordered, and she thought these were quite impressive and decided to put them aside on I believe it was at the exact time that they were released. So we're talking among the first batches. So in terms of even roll collecting, it's kind of exciting to know that these have not been, outside of the primary initial delivery to the bank, these haven't gone anywhere, which I think adds a little bit of excitement to the story. So there you go, a little bit of a trip down memory lane to early coloured decimal $2 coin collecting. It's a subject that's incredibly popular, very prevalent in the Australian coin collecting community. And I'll admit something that I guess I've inadvertently neglected over the past couple of months. We haven't had a good look at any of the coloured $2 coins for quite a while. So I hope you enjoyed taking a look at the iconic 2013 coronation, as well as the 2015 Remembrance Day coin. Let me know in the comments which of these two is your favourite. I've got to say, I can't get past the excitement of seeing intact rolls of the coronation coin. So for me, that's got to be the favourite. But then in terms of design qualities, I actually prefer the 2015 Remembrance because there's a bit more symbolism in there, and I think it relates to a really poignant part of World War I history. At any rate, if you enjoy collecting, the greatest hobby in the world, you can come on down and visit us here. We're at Shop 8 in the Boronia Mall, which is 50 Dorset Square in Boronia. We're open from Tuesday to Friday, 10 till 4, and we're also here on Saturdays from 10 till 3. Thank you very much for watching. Time to go get a coffee and start the day, and I'll see you soon.